and we are just about 39 hours away from a government shutdown unless Congress decides to act today to prevent it from happening. The funding fight lasted well into the night yesterday, and today the focus is on passing a stopgap measure to keep the government up and running, which could impact the lives and livelihoods of millions of New Yorkers.
Over 70,000 federal employees and at least 30,000 service members live and work in New York State. Everyone from TSA agents and air traffic controllers, law enforcement officials, scientists, healthcare workers, childcare workers, all of these people would either be furloughed or forced to work without pay indefinitely if the government shuts down on Sunday.
So this would be the fourth partial government shutdown in a decade. Joining us this morning is Democrat Congressman Gregory Meeks, who represents the 5th District in Queens, to talk more about this. So Congressman Meeks, thank you for being here this morning.
Good to be with you. So
Congressman, let's talk about this, right? The negotiations continued well into the night last night, but what's the reality, real talk, the likelihood that at 12:01 on October 1st there will be a government shutdown?
I think that we're just about there. Look, for the last 3 days, we've been voting late into the night, nothing serious. Instead of real negotiations taking place, what the Republicans were doing all day yesterday was having hearings about trying to impeach the president, of which the witnesses there said there was no evidence at all of the president. So it looks as to me that we're headed to a shutdown because of some MAGA Republicans, to be quite honest. Not all Republicans, but the MAGA Republicans particularly are bringing this thing down. When you look at the Senate Democrats and Republicans have agreed on a stopgap measure, or what we call a continuing resolution, so that the government doesn't shut down. The House Democrats have agreed on a stopgap. We want that bill to come and be voted on. The only one that is against it and basically want to shut it down is the House Republicans. And so unless they have, and they don't have a plan, then they seem to be all over the place. McCarthy can't control Speaker McCarthy can't control his members. Yeah. So it definitely looks like we're headed down to a shutdown come midnight tomorrow night.
Yeah, and that is terrifying for a lot of folks in our area because many of them rely on government programs. We're talking about SNAP benefits that could, if there is a shutdown, that they would only have those benefits until the end of October. But when you talk about WIC recipients, that's immediate, isn't it? Those families, there's so many mothers that are relying on that that would be completely eliminated right away.
You're absolutely right. SNAP, WIC, FDA would be sidelined, interrupting delays for food safety and pharmaceutical manufacturing and other inspections that's conducted during the year. That's part of it. You have individuals who are flying, TSA and other individuals at the airports causing delays and problems there. Our troops, talking about the border security, et cetera. Yeah. They also will be on furloughed and not getting paid for the work that they're doing. So it is devastating with what would happen and can happen if the Republicans in the House continue to pursue the direction of which they are.
Yeah, that thing what you were mentioning with the border, by the way, in the midst of a migrant crisis right here in New York City, right? So can you help us understand, because I've done a lot of reading on this topic. I'm trying to understand what exactly the issue is, because how could the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, come together on a bipartisan measure, but the House cannot?
Well, look, they're dysfunctional. It is clear that they've been dysfunctional since the time that they took power. It took them 15 votes to elect McCarthy. And what they're doing is, if McCarthy puts the Senate bill on the floor, then the Republicans say that they will then come and remove him as the speaker.
So he's trying to save his job rather than keep the government open.
That is correct. So it's just complete dysfunction on the Republican side. Some talk about the fact that there's a slim majority, but just in the 117th Congress, Democrats had a slim majority, and we were able to do positive things for the country. Nothing is happening under this leadership other than, they seem to be focused on impeaching the president and some other kind of weird and wild investigations that has not proven any fruit, as opposed to looking at what we can do to help the American people. And that's what's at stake here. It just doesn't make sense. You know, if you talk to, I saw Newt Gingrich, even former Republican speaker, saying it doesn't make sense what the House Republicans are doing. And that's what they've done for the entirety of them being in charge here in the 118th Congress.
Yeah, and for some people that might be sitting at home right now saying, well, this doesn't really impact me. You have to think about also those military bases, like the folks that are impacted by that. They're not going to be going to those businesses in those areas also, right? I mean, so a lot of folks.
It impacts everybody. Even, small businesses, for example, because the Small Business Administration would stop processing small business loans, and that hurts people and jobs and things of that nature. So it affects everybody right home. And inflation will go up.
I know we got to go. What is the sticking point? What is because this can go on forever. What is the sticking point that they can't come to a vote? Is there an item?
No, there's not an item. What has to happen, and I think what eventually will have to happen, is Speaker McCarthy will have to put the Senate's bill, the CR, the continuing resolution, on the floor. If he puts it on the floor, it will pass.
Okay.
But there's a few, he's trying to keep his job, and he's being threatened if he puts it on the floor, they will remove him as Speaker.
All right, Congressman Meeks, thanks so much. You have a long 39 hours ahead of you, so we're so grateful that you took the time to talk to us this morning.
Thank you for having me.